My name is Danielle, and I am 27 years old. If you told me 5 years ago that the woman I trusted most in the world would become the person who gutted me, I wouldn't have believed you. Friends like us weren't supposed to betray each other. We were the kind of girls who finished each other's sentences, who swapped shoes before nights out, who stayed up until 3 in the morning whispering secrets in the dark. At least that's what I thought. The night it happened is burned into my memory. Every sound, every shadow, every word. It was a Friday evening, and I was hosting one of those cozy nights in wine glasses, takeout, a playlist of throwback songs. The apartment smelled faintly of garlic bread, the kind that comes too greasy but somehow perfect when you're already half a bottle deep. I was humming along to the music, pouring wine into the big glasses we always used, when I heard the front door click open. Finally, I called out, grinning. "You're late. I almost started without you." But it wasn't just her. It was them. She walked in, arm linked with him, my boyfriend, Evan. And the way they entered wasn't casual. It wasn't innocent. It was too close. Too warm. Too familiar. My stomach dropped before a single word was spoken. "Hey, Danny," she said, her smile bright but nervous. She avoided my eyes. Evan mumbled a hello, and I caught the way his hand lingered just a second too long at the small of her back when he let go. My wine glass clinked against the counter, harder than I meant it to. "What's going on?" "Yes." My voice was calm, too calm. They exchanged a glance, that silent conversation people have when they're both hiding the same sin. My chest tightened, my pulse loud in my ears. "Don't make this dramatic," she said quickly, her tone defensive before I even accused them. "It was a mistake." Mistake. The words sliced through me like a blade. Evan finally looked up, guilt written across his face. "Danny, I'm sorry. It just happened." The room tilted. My best friend, my boyfriend, both standing in front of me with the same shameful truth in their eyes. Could barely breathe. "You slept with him," I whispered, my voice trembling, though I already knew the answer. She flinched but didn't deny it. Instead, she crossed her arms, her chin lifting with a defiance that made me want to scream. "It didn't mean anything. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd overreact. It was a mistake, Danny. Get over it. Get over it." The world around me fell silent, every sound sucked into the vortex of betrayal crashing down on me. I looked at them, the man I thought I loved, the friend I thought I could trust, and in that moment something inside me broke. But breaking has a way of making space for something else. Something sharper. Stronger. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at them, memorizing their faces, the smug guilt in hers, the cowardice in his. And I made myself a promise, right there in that ruined apartment. If they thought they could betray me and walk away unscathed, they were wrong. Because I was going to rise higher than either of them could ever imagine. And when I did, she would see me in a world she could never touch. The glass of wine in my hand trembled, spilling red across the counter like blood. And I smiled. "Hang on, before I tell you what happened next, make sure you've subscribed and left your thoughts in the comments. This part gets intense. Friendship is supposed to be the safest place in the world. At least, that's what I believed when I met her. I was 22, new to the city, clinging to the idea that I could build a life out of nothing but ambition and a second-hand suitcase. She lived down the hall, and from the moment she walked into my apartment with 2 mugs of tea and a grin that could melt stone, it felt like fate. She said she could tell I was lonely, and maybe she was right. From that night on, we were inseparable. We shared playlists, swapped clothes, finished each other's sentences. She was the one who stayed up with me until dawn when my mother's health took a bad turn, the one who promised we'd never let men or careers come between us. She wasn't just my best friend. She was my anchor. But anchors can weigh you down too. The first signs were subtle, the kind of things you explain away because you don't want to believe them. She borrowed my favorite dress and forgot to return it, even when I asked. She made jokes at my expense when other people were listening, The kind that sting more than you admit. At parties, she had a way of shining so bright that I felt like a shadow standing beside her. I told myself it was nothing. That's what best friends do, right? They tease, they borrow, they outshine you sometimes. I buried the unease because the thought of losing her scared me more than the cracks did. Then came Evan. He was quiet where she was loud, thoughtful where she was impulsive. From the beginning, I liked the way he made me feel seen. Not as her sidekick, not as the girl standing in the corner. Just me. When he laughed at my jokes, it was because he actually found them funny. When he held my hand, it felt steady, not performative. But Vera, my best friend, inserted herself almost immediately. She invited herself along to dinners, added him to our group chats, and leaned too close when she laughed at something he said. I told myself it was harmless. She was just being her usual self. Still, sometimes I caught her looking at him in a way that tightened something inside my chest. And other times I caught her looking at me. Not with love, not even with envy, but with calculation. Like she was measuring how hard it would be to take what was mine. One night, after Evan stayed over, I found a tube of lipstick in his car. Not my shade. Not my brand. I brushed it off, telling myself it was nothing. But when I mentioned it, she laughed and said, "Maybe it's mine. I'm always leaving things around." It was such a casual answer. Too casual. Another time, I arrived early to a bar and saw the two of them in a corner booth, heads bent together, laughing about something I wasn't a part of. When they noticed me, they both jumped. She hugged me too tightly, he knocked over his drink. We laughed it off, but the pit in my stomach never really went away after that. And then, the worst cut of all. One night, when she was drunk and crying on my couch over yet another guy who had ghosted her, she blurted out, "I don't know why men always choose girls like you. Girls like me." The words echoed in my chest long after she'd fallen asleep. I told myself she didn't mean it, but the truth was already there, waiting for me to admit it. She resented me. She wanted what I had, but more than that, she wanted to prove she could take it. The cracks weren't cracks anymore. They were fractures spreading fast. And deep down, I knew something was coming. Something that would tear everything apart. Before we move on, take a second to hit subscribe and drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you think so far. It happened on a night that should have been ordinary. The kind of Friday where you expect nothing worse than bad takeout or a dull movie. But ordinary nights are dangerous. They trick you into letting your guard down. Evan had told me he was working late. My best friend had told me she was going out with colleagues. I believed them both, because that's what love and friendship are supposed to mean, trust. But trust can be a blindfold. I had left my phone on the counter while I showered, and when I came back, it was buzzing with a string of notifications. Mutual friends tagging photos on social media. At first, I smiled, expecting snapshots of a party I hadn't felt like attending. Then I opened the app. There they were. Evan. Vera. Together. Not just together, together. His hand on her waist, her head tilted back in laughter. Their bodies angled toward each other in a way that wasn't friendly. A photo of them leaving the bar. His jacket draped over her shoulders. And finally, one that made my stomach turn. The two of them kissing outside in the neon glow of a streetlight. I dropped the phone. It clattered across the tiles, screen glowing like a wound. My chest seized up, breath caught somewhere between a scream and a sob. I picked up the phone with shaking hands, scrolling back through the images as if they'd change if I looked again. They didn't. They were burned into the screen. Burned into me. I called him first. He didn't pick up. I called her next. Straight to voicemail. It was after midnight when the door finally opened. Evan walked in like nothing had happened, tossing his keys on the table. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair mussed. He smelled like cheap perfume that wasn't mine. "Where were you?" I asked. My voice was calm, almost too calm, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. "Work ran late," he said without meeting my eyes. Funny, I said, holding up the phone. Because work doesn't look much like this. He froze. His jaw clenched. And for a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd beg, apologize, fall apart. Instead he sighed. It was a mistake. The front door opened again and she walked in. Vera. My best friend. Her lipstick smudged, her cheeks flushed. She stopped when she saw me standing there, phone in hand, the photos glowing like evidence. Please, she whispered. It wasn't what it looked like. But lies always sound thinner at midnight. Don't insult me, I snapped. My voice cracked, but I held my ground. You were with him. You've been with him. How long? Neither of them spoke. That silence was worse than anything. Finally, Evan muttered. It just happened. We didn't mean for it to. My laugh was hollow. Didn't mean to. You've been sneaking around for weeks. You let me pour my heart out to both of you while you. My voice broke. While you destroyed everything behind my back. Vera reached for me, tears brimming in her eyes. You have to believe me, it didn't mean anything. Is yours. It was just a mistake. But her eyes told another story. There was guilt, yes, but also something else. Triumph. In that moment I realized the truth. She hadn't just stumbled into this. She wanted it. She wanted him. Or maybe she didn't even want him. Maybe she just wanted to prove she could take what was mine. Turned to Evan. And you? Do you love her? He hesitated. That pause was the death of us. Because hesitation is an answer too. Something inside me shattered. The girl who believed in them, my love, my friendship, my trust, died right there in that room. And what replaced her wasn't weak. It was fire. I walked past them both, my hands trembling but my voice steady. Enjoy each other, I said coldly. Because soon, neither of you will have anything left. I slammed the bedroom door, my heart pounding, my vision blurring with tears. I collapsed on the bed, sobs tearing through me, grief and rage wrapping around me like chains. But even through the storm, a single thought pushed its way through the noise. If they thought this was the end of me, they had no idea what was coming. Before we go any further, click subscribe and let me know in the comments. What would you have done in my shoes? Grief comes in waves, but rage burns steady. In the days that followed, I felt both. One moment, I was curled up in bed replaying that night, their voices echoing in my head. The next, I was pacing the apartment with a kind of cold clarity I had never known before. If they thought I'd crumble, they were wrong. They had no idea who they'd created in the fire of their betrayal. The first step was silence. I didn't scream. I didn't post cryptic quotes online. I didn't tell our mutual friends what they had done. That silence was my weapon. Because silence made them careless. Evan assumed I'd forgive him. He still came home some nights, dropping his tie on the counter, acting like my anger would melt with time. Vera kept texting, little apologies mixed with excuses. We didn't mean to hurt you, or, it just happened, please don't hate me. Their arrogance made me sick. But it also made them predictable. Began to watch. To listen. To collect. Every message they sent me I saved. Every receipt Evan left in his pockets, I photographed. I memorized the dates, the places, the lies. Slowly, a timeline began to take shape. A map of betrayal, drawn in text threads and late-night credit card charges. It wasn't just about catching them in the act anymore. It was about showing everyone exactly who they were. But revenge is more than evidence. It's theater. You need the right stage, the right audience, the perfect moment to strike. So I began to craft mine. I joined the gym Evan had always mocked me for avoiding. Why waste time there, he used to say. You're fine the way you are. What he really meant was, don't change. Don't grow. Stay where I can control you. I worked harder than I ever had in my life. Every bead of sweat was a prayer to my future self. Every sore muscle was proof that I was building something stronger from the ruins. I enrolled in a design course Vera had once laughed at. "You'll never make money off that," she'd said, smirking over her wine glass. "Stick to safe jobs." But I didn't want safe. I wanted power. And every late night spent over my laptop made me sharper, hungrier. The more I built myself, the clearer my plan became. I wouldn't just expose them. I'd expose them publicly. In front of everyone who had ever believed their lies, admired their love story, envied our friendship. I pictured it. Faces paling, jaws dropping, the silence as the truth spilled out. Not just whispers, not just rumors, but evidence, undeniable and merciless. Still doubts crept in late at night. Was I strong enough? Was this revenge worth my peace? Then I'd remember Vera's smirk. Evan's hesitation when I asked if he loved her. The laughter in those photos. And the doubts burned away. No, this wasn't just worth it. This was necessary. The hardest part was pretending. I kept my mask on around them, answering texts with short replies, nodding at Evan's pathetic excuses. I let them think I was fading into the background, that I was defeated. All while behind the scenes, I was sharpening every blade. The opportunity came faster than I expected. A mutual friend was hosting a networking event, a glamorous party full of colleagues, investors, and acquaintances. Both Evan and Vera were invited. So was I. It was perfect. The stage. The audience. The place where their carefully built facades would crumble in a single night. I printed everything. Photos. Messages. Receipts. I rehearsed my words in the mirror until they dripped with venom and truth. The night of the event, I stood in front of my closet, my heart pounding. This wasn't just about clothes, it was armor. I chose a dress I knew would silence a room, one that said without words, "I am not broken. I am not ordinary. I am unstoppable." As I zipped it up and caught my reflection, I almost didn't recognize the woman staring back. She wasn't the naive girl who trusted blindly. She wasn't the broken girl sobbing into her pillow. She was something else. And that night she was going to burn their world down. The night of the party glittered with champagne flutes and camera flashes. The kind of event where everyone dressed to impress, where smiles were just masks stretched over ambition. I walked in alone, my heels striking the marble floor like a warning. Heads turned. Conversations faltered. I could feel the eyes on me, sizing me up. But let them watch. Evan spotted me first. His face twitched with surprise, quickly replaced by that smug smile I'd grown to despise. He walked over, hands in his pockets like he owned the place. "Didn't think you'd come," he said smoothly. "Of course I came," I replied, my voice calm, almost sweet. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Vera appeared at his side, draped in silk, her hand brushing his arm like they hadn't been caught. She had the audacity to smile at me, wide and fake. "Hey, I'm glad you're here," she said. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because the room was about to do it for me. At the front of the ballroom, a projector flickered to life. The host was about to introduce the night's speakers when I made my move. "Sorry to interrupt," I said, my voice steady but loud enough to cut through the chatter. Heads turned. Silence spread. But before we celebrate success tonight, I think everyone deserves to see what betrayal really looks like. The first image flashed on the screen. Evan's text messages. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then another photo. Hotel receipts. Dinner bills. Late-night excuses exposed in black and white. Vera's smile dropped. Evan's face drained of color. Whispers erupted. A few people laughed in disbelief. Others shook their heads. The audience was hooked, the tension crackling like static. "You see," I continued, my voice rising, "while I thought I was building a future with a man who loved me, he was building a second life with my so-called best friend. And while they whispered about mistakes and secrets, I collected the truth. Every single one. I clicked to the final slide. A photo of the two of them kissing in a hotel lobby, time-stamped. Proof they couldn't deny. The room exploded. Vera stumbled forward, her voice shaking. It was a mistake. We didn't mean. But no one believed her. The evidence spoke louder than any excuse. Evan tried to grab my arm to stop me, but I stepped back, lifting my chin. You told me I was nothing without you, I said, staring directly at him. But tonight proves the opposite. You're nothing without the lies. Without me, you're just another coward exposed. The applause started slowly. A few claps, hesitant but strong, and then grew until the entire room was on its feet. Not for them. For me. Vera fled first, tears streaking her face, her heels slipping on the marble as whispers followed her out the door. Evan stayed frozen, his jaw tight, his career and reputation collapsing in front of his colleagues. I left them both there, alone, shattered. Outside, the cool night air wrapped around me, and for the first time in months I felt free. They thought I'd be broken. They thought I'd fade. But I had risen higher, sharper, untouchable. And as I walked down the steps of that glittering hall, the truth thundered in my chest. The life they tried to steal from me, I was already living it, and they would never be a part of it. When you're told you're nothing without them, remember this: betrayal is not your end, it's your beginning. I walked away from lies, from cowards, from people who thought they could erase me. And I built a life they'll never touch. So to anyone listening who's been betrayed, don't waste your tears. Turn the pain into power. And when the truth comes out, make sure it comes out loud enough for the whole world to hear.